Hey guys, I just wanted to go over a little bit what we did in class because it might have been confusing or you might need a refresher. Remember, we're going to have a quiz on Wednesday on this information, so you should be able to do this about at the same speed I'm going to show you now. So let's go ahead and get started and just create a new HD 1080p document. We under film and video, we always go here. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to change my workspace back to motion so that you guys are all on the same page here. And what I'm going to do, double click the background layer to get rid of that so I can check to see my transparency. And then I'm going to add, I know I'm going to be needing 2 video layers, so I'm just going to add them in right now. So video layer, blank video layer, and then video layer. Actually, before I add the second one, I want to definitely change the timeline frame rate. We know that's going to be 12. Don't forget this. You're always going to be sorry if you do. I'm going to enable onion skin. We're going to need that. I've got my brush tool, B for brush and D for default here. And I'm going to go ahead and call this layer cloud line. And that will be my line layer. And then underneath that, I'm just going to go ahead and go to image, or I'm sorry, layer, video layer, new blank video layer. And I'm going to just add that under the cloud line layer, and that's going to be called the cloud fill. So we're going to start with the line, the cloud itself, and I've got the background down so I can see what I'm doing. You can kind of see right there. I'm on the cloud line layer, and I'm going to go ahead and use the brush tool, and I'm going to select my default pencil brush because I like that one, and I'm going to use my Wacom tablet, and I'm just going to draw a cloud. So that's a cloud, and I know I'm going to do this 3 times, so I'm going to go to the next frame with the arrow key, and I'm going to carefully just outline that cloud as closely as possible. But I know it's a quiz, so I know I want to make sure I get done in time. I'm being very careful to make sure that I go and connect the starting and ending point so that there's an inside and an outside. I'm going to go to the next frame and then draw my 3rd cloud. Right. And then once I've done that, I'm just going to set the loop point. I'm not done yet, but I'm going to set the loop point so that it loops, and I can always open this up so you can see. I can always open up my cloud line, and you can see the 1, 2, 3 frames. So right here is the last frame, and I'm going to move that loop point so that it actually goes right there. So if you go ahead and hit the space bar, you'll see you've got 1, 2, 3 clouds, and they're just clouding. I'm going to turn the onion skin off because I don't need it any longer. So you can kind of see I've got 1, 2, 3 just sitting there doing a little thing. It looks like it's in movement, right? Now the next thing I'm going to do is going to fill this cloud in with white. So I'm going to turn off my background layer, or if I wanted to, I could turn that layer into something different, like fill it with a color. But I'm going to turn it off for now. I'm going to go back to the beginning. So this is my 1st frame. I'm going to use the wand tool, W for wand, right? And I'm going to select the outside of the line layer. So notice that I have to be on the line layer. It doesn't work unless I am on the line layer. So by clicking on the line layer and selecting, it selects everything that's outside of the cloud. You can see it's selecting all this stuff. We want to go to select, invert that selection. Now it's all the stuff on the inside of that line layer. And that allows me to go to my fill layer. I'm going to zero out so you can see this. Use my paint bucket tool, G for paint bucket. Select the color that is cloud, like maybe a little bit off gray with a little bit of blue, like this one right here. And now I'm going to hit the fill button and just fill in that cloud layer that's under the line layer, right? That's the important thing. So if I turn off the line, I'm going to deselect, Command D, and you can see there's the cloud and there's the line. It looks beautiful. So we go to the next frame, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit the W. That gets me to the wand tool. I'm going to be the line, going to select the line layer, select outside of the line, right? Invert the selection, then go to the fill layer, and then go ahead and fill with the letter G to select the gradient paint bucket tool and fill in. So I'm going to do this one more time. Go to the next frame. Oops, I just went to the last frame. This frame with, okay. Go to the outline layer, W, select outside, invert the selection. Now it's selecting in slide, go to the fill layer and hit the G button to select the paint bucket tool and then paint in. And now what we have is a beautiful cloud. I'm going to go ahead and file save that as a normal thing because, I'm sorry, hit save as. I'm going to hit cancel for a second. I'm going to hit file, save, just so I have it in case something crashes. Make sure I save it to the desktop and not to the cloud. I'm just going to call this test cloud. If you don't do this and something bad happens, you got to start over, right? And it's a quiz, so bad things, no. Now I'm going to go to File, Export, Render Video, and I'm going to make sure that QuickTime is selected, Animation High Quality is selected, 12 frames per second should be there. The alpha channel must be set to straight unmatte or the transparency won't show up. And the work area needs to be from 0 to 2. That's 3 frames, 0, 1, and 2. If it is not 0 to 2, then you don't have this set correctly. So stop here and set your boundaries correctly so all 3 frames will go. I'm going to set the folder to someplace where I can find it. I'm going to put in my motion folder here. And I'm going to go ahead and name this Gray Cloud Movie. And I'm going to hit render. At this point, it should be rendered in that folder, so I'm going to go ahead and quit Photoshop. And I'm going to save what I've done if it asks me to. And at this point, you can see in my motion folder, there is a Gray Cloud Movie right there. The next thing we're going to do is open up Motion. And just like we did in class, we didn't start a new project. What instead we did was open it here as Import as Project. And we selected the movie file that will set everything up to the right aspect ratio and size, as well as frames per second. And we went ahead and imported that. At this point, we see a gray cloud on a black background. The black is not really black, it's just transparent, but in motion it's black. If you hit the spacebar, you see we have 3 frames, right? So everything is good. So now we just need to expand our project. This is the first time we've put this in. So we go to our project tab at the top. Go to the inspector properties, and what we're going to do is we're going to set the duration to 10 seconds 0 frames, 10.0, and I have to hit the return to set this. So I'm going to hit return, and you see that the timeline is actually expanded. I'm going to increase the size of this timeline. I'm going to zoom a little bit out so I can see the end here. I'm going to increase the play range here, just like you do on Photoshop, and now we've got 10 full seconds of pretty much nothing in 3 frames at the beginning with the cloud. So go ahead and select the cloud, go to the properties, go to the timing area and hit the show button and put the end condition to loop. And then go ahead and increase that to 100, and you can see now I have 100 loops of that cloud right here. Now do you see that it doesn't go quite all the way to the end? So we can actually go to that end duration number, 100, and we can actually increase this physically just by selecting the cloud and then going here and moving this to something like 500 or whatever, and it'll keep going forever as far as your time is concerned. Okay, you can kind of see that now. Finally, one of the last things we did is add more objects from Photoshop, but also add a background to this area so that we don't know what this is, whether it's black or whatever, but we do know it's transparent when we export. So we're going to select this area, this plus area, go to generator, and then we're going to select color solid. That gives us a horrible blue, so we're going to go ahead and click on this generator color solid area here, and we're going to just change it to something a little more appropriate to sky. And the reason why we can't see the cloud under the sky is because it's underneath. So we're going to move this color solid carefully underneath the cloud. And now what we have is a cloud sitting on a beautiful background, and it's clouding away. Now this won't be on the quiz, but I wanted to reinforce what we did in class. Under the cloud, what we did was select it and moved it to kind of where we wanted it to start animating. We went to the properties for the cloud and changed the scale just to make it a little bit smaller. You can kind of see that. You could change the opacity if you want to, make it a little bit more transparent or less transparent. So you can do whatever you need to that frame. You could use this little handle to move the cloud or flip it upside down, however you want to do it. I'm going to undo And then what we did is use a behavior such as basic motion throw, selected the cloud, went to behavior, throw, and what that did is it created a throw behavior, this little purple line here, that actually will just throw the cloud a certain distance. In order to actually show the direction and distance, we used our HUD, which you can see from up here is off. If I click it, this is what showed up. And all I did was create an arrow. Now notice that this arrow goes quite a bit off screen, which is maybe what you want. And remember, to get there, you have to actually go through the entire animation to the end. And you can kind of see that it's actually going even further. Because remember, we made this looped animation here. We had 400 loops. So I'm going to actually dial this back down to maybe 140. This way we can actually get to the end of that throw. And then I'm going to move this throw over so I can see the end here, and then bring that in. And then I'm going to move this over. And so what it's doing now, it's showing like the cloud should end up here. At this point, it should end up right here, and it should begin right here. And so at this point, I can actually throw it a little more. I'm going to zoom out on this dial here so that I can actually increase the range. Zoom out a little bit more, and you can kind of see now I can really throw it quickly. And if I move back to the beginning of the animation and move this off screen, you can see it'll start off screen and pretty much end off screen. It could be a little bit more off screen, so I'm just going to do that. There you go. And now when I hit the space bar, I've got the cloud moving from left to right, on screen and then off screen. And then when it loops back, and the loop back point is way over here, but you can make it loop back here. So when it loops back, you'll see that the cloud starts over on the left. And again, what we did for this throw, we could collapse this cloud here. We could duplicate the cloud, Command D, and move it to another location, and you can kind of see what's going to happen. You're going to have the cloud moving at about the same speed and the same time. That doesn't make as much sense to me, so I'm going to select the throw and maybe dial it down a little bit so one thing moves at a different rate. And maybe even select the cloud again and go to the scale property and just scale it up since it's in front, right? And there we go. And so the clouds that are further back maybe are moving faster. Actually, that makes just the opposite amount of sense. So usually what happens is the clouds that are closer go slower or move faster, and the ones in the back go slower. So maybe I'll play with that. Just go to throw, make this one go faster, and then the one in the back, make that throw go slower. Now that might look a little more correct. Anyway, and then you can keep making these. Obviously, if you change any of the opacities or whatever you want, this works. Now, clicking away from any of these things, just by clicking on the gray, will get rid of all these lines, so you can kind of see what you've done. I hope this helps. I hope you're able to get this done in 15, so practice, right? 3 drawings, 3 fills, exporting, bringing it in the motion, and I won't make you do anything in motion with the throw, but I do want you to be able to go to the project property inspector and then make sure that you change this to 10 seconds with a return after you've done 10.0, and it should be set to 12 automatically. Okay.